don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real Portland live from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 6 Rings Kane Show, Pinstripe Bowl postseason, post-game / postseason.
Oh, postseason,
yeah. I mean, this is more than post. This is postseason. Canes drop an ugly game, man. Just a bad game overall for the Canes. They drop it to Rutgers 31-24. Had an opportunity there at the end, but just a lot of things that did not go right in this game. And we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly for sure. As cliche as it sounds, and I think there was some good. There was definitely a lot of bad, and definitely a lot of ugly as well. So we'll get into that. I know a lot of Canes fans are going to be pretty bummed out and pretty pissed off about this one. I think I can speak for Vish and myself. We're pretty pissed off about some things that happened as well. So we'll definitely get all into that. I know Blue's coming on in just a short while, so we'll get Blue's comments on what happened today, as well as the Canes again drop the Pinstripe Bowl 31-24 to Rutgers. Vish and I are here, so DJ, I kind of want to get your take on what you saw overall. Just the game overall, and how you feel about this performance from Miami Hurricanes.
I'll start with the good first off. I thought Ruben Bain played outstanding today. There were some players who looked like they didn't even want to be on the field today. Ruben Bain was not one of them. I thought he played with tremendous energy and intensity, as he has all season. He's not the type to take a game off or take a play off. He goes full throttle every single snap, and I think that's going to really serve him well. He's already received some accolades this season, and he's got a really bright future with this program. I know we talk about him ad nauseum, but today he was just all over the field. He had a high motor. He wanted to get after Gavin Wimsatt, and he did on some occasions. And I think he's going to be a player that can really be the anchor of this defense moving forward. Some freshmen don't get a chance to make an instant impact, or kind of fall behind in a program. Bain is not one of those guys. He is a high caliber player, and Miami is lucky to have him, and he played really well today. And then I don't know, I kind of want to get your guys' take on this, because you're closer, you're at the games, and you're kind of more in the know about some stuff than I am. But the lack of discipline in this game, for example, the penalty on Robbie Washington, and then Jacoby George, and the starting stuff with Rutgers players after the whistle and things like that, and also the continued poor clock management was just something that really stuck out to me today. I know we've talked about, the clock management before, but it reared its ugly head again today. And at this point, I'm not sure if it's something that can get fixed or if this is just a Mario thing that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the second one first. No, he's awful at it. It's embarrassingly bad. He's paid a lot of money, and honestly, there's no shame in him admitting, I don't know how to do this part of the game. I'm going to have an analyst just handle it. They're going to tell me when to call timeout and when to go hurry up and when to sit on the ball and when to kneel the ball, because he clearly does not know how to do that. And it wasn't just, that we got screwed at the end of the first half when they reviewed something for less than a second, came out and overturned it when he was in bounds. And they said there was indisputable evidence that he wasn't. I mean, you look at the Restrepo touchdown, where, his feet were down. It's unclear for sure whether his foot came off the ground before he had possession, but then his butt hit the ground. His right ass cheek was out of bounds. His left ass cheek was in bounds. And there's actually still shots. You can see the left side of his butt hit first. So he was in bounds anyway, but they overturned it on that. So we all were looking at that. What we didn't focus on is we moronically did not call timeout after second down on Rutgers possession when it was going to be 3rd and 11 and lost 40 seconds. That's why you had to kick the field goal in the first place, because we got screwed on the call, but it should have just been another down to run a play on. And we should have had another 40 seconds there. And we all know what happened at the end of the game. We took 2 timeouts with us and ran out of time, and we didn't call them defensively. And that, he can't, I think it's, Rod Gilmore, and boy, don't let me get me started on these commentators on the game either. They were horrible. But he was basically like, well, Miami fans got to understand this is how Mario does things. Like, that's not an acceptable answer. That's not. You cannot.
But I think it is a way that he does. Like, I think we don't have to accept it or like it, but I think he has done things this way in the past.
He's not very good at it.
But yeah, it's unacceptable in a $100 million enterprise.
100%.
To have someone that, well, that's the way it is. No, pull one of the grad students out of the math department and pull them onto the sideline. I'm not even joking. This is not hard. This is simple math. And if he can't do it, just farm it out to one of the 400 people standing on the sideline and say, just tell me when to call timeout. That's it. That's not hard. We can fix a lot of that. Like, that's fixable easily, but also probably seems like the thing that's never going to get fixed because he's too stubborn to admit he can't do it.
That was my next question. Do you think his ego would allow him to have a grad assistant? Okay.
What what's crazy about is that he's staring at the clock the whole time.
He is.
You see it. You see it in the shots that they put on TV. He's staring at the clock, looking down, staring at the clock, looking at the field. And it's like, what are you literally, what are you staring at if you don't know what the hell is going on? Like, are you staring? Is there, is there an angel up there or something that you're kind of looking at, a spacecraft? Like, what the hell are you looking at? Like, if you're not gonna do something about it, I mean, me and Vish are sitting here saying you could have gotten that onside kick and had 2 minutes on the board, or a minute and a half on the board, as opposed to 20 seconds. And then you've got to come up with plays that are almost impossible to make, especially with your, quote unquote third string quarterback, who quite frankly did not have a terrible game. And we'll kind of get into that in a second here. But I think the biggest thing aside from obviously that, play calling and, you notice, and DJ, you brought up a good point, right? There's some guys that just didn't look like they cared if they were out there or not. There's a drop off. There's still a drop off here from your starters to the guys behind them, right? The depth is still not there. At some positions, it looks better than others, but you notice at some positions that it's not there, right? And I think that the biggest one that I noticed, right, regardless of injuries or opt-outs or whatever the case is we're known for being a pretty good running defense, I mean, the defensive line did not do a great job today, aside from Ruben Bain. That the rest of that defensive line was not very good today. The linebacker play was mediocre. I mean, Kiko did some nice things, but you have to play Keontre Smith, who hasn't seen the field in 6 or 7 games. Basically, you played a lot of your young guys. You saw Popo Aguirre out there playing a little bit, and you still and I did talk about that at linebacker. You were going to be okay using some of the young guys, but that front four had an issue. They ran all over us the whole game, so they had, I think it was about 200 yards rushing. So my thing is that the depth, the lack of depth, is still there, and that's going to be a big issue. And I think that someone posted, actually, I just saw it on Twitter a little while ago. Screw everybody's feelings. Screw everybody being butthurt if they don't get the start, or their second string, or their third in the depth chart, or they want more playing. I don't give a crap about that. Go out, whether it's recruiting or in the portal, get your guys, get a tough, strong team that you can build some depth around, and go win some damn football games. Because at this point, I don't really care about anybody's feelings. I don't care about how anybody feels about one position or the other. Okay, screw the fans and whatever they're saying too, because they're going to say 6 million things and 6 million different things. Just go out there, put a football team together that's going to win some football games against a team like Rutgers, who's abysmal at best. Okay, and that quarterback, you notice, and Vish kept saying this. I'm like, why are we playing with safeties? Stack the box and make him beat you. He can't beat you in the air throwing the football at all. Coach Guidry, I don't think did such a great job of adjusting to that either. So there's a lot of things that this game kind of showed us today, and we'll definitely talk about one of the most important things that everybody wants to talk about, which is a quarterback play in a second. But I just feel like if we don't do that, if we don't start developing some more depth, then we're going to continue to have the same issues.
So I was
let me bring Blue in here just real quick on the depth. Part of it, like everyone's like saying it's Rutgers. They were 6-6 in the Big Ten. They're not the Rutgers we used to play in the Big East.
No.
2 games a year. With that said, I don't know that this was a depth issue. This was an attitude issue.
I think it was both.
We were totally fun. Like a lot of our penalties were, quite frankly, if a team was doing this, we'd be like, that team is dirty. They're hitting way after the play. They're hitting the punter on a fair catch after the play is over.
Yeah.
Like but then during the play, man, they out physicaled us. They pushed us around on both lines. Some of it was backups in there, but some of it just missed tackles by guys that had been making tackles that just didn't look like they wanted to physically, like, they didn't opt out technically, but they felt like they opted out of some of the content that Rutgers was delivering, and it was embarrassing. A lot of that, and you could tell because at some point in the second quarter, we did actually, you could tell, like, we kind of like, all right, I think it was actually in between the quarters. I think Mario or someone lit into them because we came out really physical. We stuffed them immediately. They lost like 6 yards and had to kick a long field goal that they missed when they were just marching down the field for their second score. And we kind of then got some stuff going. And then right after the block punt, we were done. We're like, we're not. This is not worth it. And there's an attitude problem there. And you would think that some of the guys that haven't been playing would be like more hungry to play, but we got out physicaled across the board, and it was
a bad coaching job as well.
Yeah, no,
it was.
We got worked as well.
I will say too. Oh, go ahead.
DJ, you go ahead.
I will say too that I think we allowed Rutgers to play the game that they wanted to play. Their very first drive was extremely long. I forget the exact amount of time, but we didn't really force them to do anything that they didn't want to do. Once we started to crowd the line of scrimmage defensively, they were just able to bounce it to the outside. They adjusted and they kind of worked around the defensive scheme. And, Rutgers likes to play a slow, physical, methodical pace of game. And Miami defensively didn't really do anything to counteract that or make them uncomfortable. Like you guys mentioned, you would have thought that they would have made Winston throw a little more, but I think Rutgers knew that even if they got 1 or 2 yards on first down, there would be some more room on second down, more room on third down, and they just kept chipping away, and the Hurricanes couldn't keep up with that.
I agree. And by the way, something must have happened that they started Lou Cristobal over Matt McCoy at left guard. It's not fathomable to me that he's going to play over Matt McCoy at left guard, but we'll let Blue kind of chime in on this whole thing. Blue, just
Hey,
kind
Blue.
of, trying to figure out what everybody's thoughts are here on just the performance today for the Miami Hurricanes.
Well, I was upset at the beginning. Obviously, I kind of voiced it to DJ and that they came out and they didn't care. And they were down 7 people, obviously, that they would normally have 2 offensive linemen, which hurt, kind of cut into. We'll talk about Jakuri, but I was just angry at the fact that they didn't come out with their hair on fire to show everybody, hey, listen, you know what? We may be down 2 safeties, a wide receiver, 2 offensive linemen, a defensive end, a defensive interior guy, and that we're still playing. And they didn't do that early. And I think that the very fact that there were so many mistakes made, and you know what, when you say, and I just heard you, Jazz, talking about how they came out and they had that attitude, that's coaching. That's coaching. Sorry, but that's coaching. Just like the way that, and I'll just say it, Jacoby George has been a thug the last couple of weeks. He really has. He cost them in the last game, with the stupid penalties. Then today he gets in 2 fights. He cost them. He dropped the dang ball that could have. And if you look at the play, it was designed to really go a distance. And I think that could have changed. So you can't have that from a 4-year player, especially when you have so many young kids playing. And the biggest frustration to me is that they just weren't playing hard in the first half. And I don't buy that somebody talked to them at second half. They are who they are. That's the way it is. And Rutgers is an average team, but they're not the same, as Vish said. They're not the same when they were in the Big Ten. I mean, in the Big East, because they're having to recruit at a Big Ten level now. So they got better dudes. And I agree with what you said. I thought that they could have defensed the quarterback a lot better, because I could throw better than he did. And all he could do is run and set up things. And their offensive line outweighed Miami by 50 pounds a player, though. They were huge up front. But still, Bain made some plays. You got, Wayne got in there on a couple of plays. I just think I'm not going to blame it on a talent that Miami didn't have and the youth and experience. I'm going to blame it on just the way that they came out, because you could overcome, what you don't have talent-wise by just how hard you play. And they didn't play very hard. And they could have been, as the announcer said, they could have been down 21-0. But Rutgers was equally as inefficient moving the ball, into the end zone. They missed a couple of different opportunities. But my only takeaway, and I'm not going to blame any individuals, because I thought a lot of the guys stepped it up, but it's a coaching thing when you don't come out with a purpose, and they didn't, and they did in the second half, and but then they kind of blew the play call to me on that 4th and short. What was that? They were blowing Miami back. Why would you just run an off the tackle run, with a guy who is a good back, but he needs help up front to succeed. He really does. He needs a hole to become effective. And you kind of knew that they were going to stack the box on him. But that's my
and we ran against all of our behind all of our backup linemen on the left side. Like, I don't even understand what we were thinking there.
Yeah.
At least run off the right.
First of all,
and listen, I love Mario and I love the family, guys, but there's no way his nephew should be in there. There's just no way.
That's straight up. We don't know what happens behind the season. Let's call it what it is. It's nepotism, and he allowed his nephew to have a bowl game experience, and it hurt the team, and it's completely unacceptable. No, that's what happened.
I understand.
Now played significantly in a bowl game. They can enjoy that Thanksgiving next year. It's unbelievable.
Why is where is McCoy? Why is Cristobal starting this game? What the hell is going on?
He shouldn't. He's on the. it's questionable whether or not he should even really be on the team. He's not a Miami caliber lineman.
Right.
But I get that, you're always going to have some backups that don't really ever get in the game unless it's a blowout. That really, if all the starters go down, you're looking to another team to replace them. That guy's never going to play.
Right.
It's insane to play that guy and to start give him majority of snaps and to watch.
Richard didn't make the trip for some crazy reason.
I mean, this is to me that, and then like Blue, like you said, the big fourth down of the game. Let's run behind this guy.
What was that?
Like, what are you doing? Like, it's bad enough he's in the game. Just let's run behind him.
It's what we keep saying, right? It's the coaching. The coaching there.
That was iffy. That was iffy play. But and the funny thing is the announcer said this is the biggest play of the game, and you're going to run that on the biggest play of the game. I don't know. I don't know if you discussed Jacurri at all.
We haven't. But I do want to address one thing. So John S. in the chat here is kind of
absolutely not. I'll say that right now. Absolutely not.
But here, I want to address the overall tenor here. Everything sucks. Blah blah blah. Sucks. Right. That's not a good show to do. It's not good content, and it doesn't help anything. So we're not going to come out here and just go, everything sucks. Look how smart I am because I'm saying everything sucks. So if you want to do that, that's not. I mean, what is the point of that? Right. Because literally all of your. I mean, this is literally what you wrote earlier. Okay, in that case, just turn the stream off. Go do something else because there's no point. We're going to talk about what we thought went well, what we thought didn't go well. Things we can no, but I mean, if that is the comment, team sucks, in-game coaching sucks. That's all, folks. Okay, that's all. You can like, we're not going to come out and say it like that. We obviously have a lot of things we didn't like about the game. We've been pretty negative just to open this show up. We're also going to talk about the things we like and things we want to see improve for next year.
And if you watch the show,
and if the whole thing is just going to be, well, everything sucks. Okay, you don't have to watch the show. And it's not good content to do that, frankly, because no one really, there's no point in following the program.
If you watch the show, Blue and DJ predict the sound.
Yeah, but and I also, again, though, the predictions are one thing, right? But it's also just that saying everything sucks and there's no solution to it, therefore everything's gonna always suck. Right. There's no point in following a program if you think that. So
I feel like we're all very fair here too. I feel
we've been very negative to kick this off.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some of the quarterback play and certainly talk about what we need to improve on next year.
Yeah.
But I know we're not being overly positive or sunshine blowing up Mario's ass right now. Nor should we be. Exactly. But we're also not just going to how you're here and go like everything's on fire. Fuck this. Because that's not. What's the point of that? Like, I could have done that in 10 seconds. We had to kill the stream.
Yeah.
So anyway,
but to be balanced is what this show is about. And you could see there's a lot of things that went wrong. So we just addressed those. Now we'll start getting into the positives. And if that guy wants to stay with us, appreciate it. But if you're going to make comments like that, at least at the end, say, you know what, we're going to get better. And that's fine. If you say that we're suck now, okay. But if you're going to say, you know what, I can't wait, we're going to get better. We got some young guys, and the portal is going to help. And just watching the USC game last night and thinking to myself, when the announcer said, well, as good as USC's playing, and they're probably not going to now look for a quarterback, which leaves a quarterback, out there. And then secondly, they're going to have a whole different team when they open up next August. Yep. Will Miami do the same thing? I think so. You're going to see a lot of new faces, established guys that are going to come in. People want to be a part of this program. They really do, because you see that 2 years in a row, top 10 recruiting classes. We just got done arguably with the best class they've ever had. I mean, as far as linemen and obviously there's a couple of guys they didn't hit on, but look at all of them they did. And I just think there's so much to be excited about. And I think everything's going to transpire in June, because if you're going to get a quarterback, which they probably do, get him now. Because I don't know if Jacurri Brown's going to start, but I got to give him all the credit in the world, having not taken a snap all year and putting on a pretty decent performance. He had no blocking, he had a freaking, a AAA blocking in front of him. His running game sometimes was iffy. I thought he did what he could. He actually played the game that, you know what, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to try to do everything I can. And he did. I thought he played as well. That pass to Restrepo was pretty damn nice. You know, I mean, for the touchdown, he made some plays. Is he a Heisman Trophy candidate? No, but this was his first real action of the whole season, and here we are 5 days away from the new year.
Can I tell you something, though? I think you see the development, though. I believe it or not.
Yeah, I agree.
He's a better player now than he was 2 years ago.
Much
Georgia Tech and all that stuff. He's a much better player now. He's got an idea as to what he's doing. I mean, he's still making some mistakes, but again, Blue, you said he hasn't played a single snap all season.
Right? And he didn't exactly have help around him at times either. So
yeah, and I'm not saying he's going to be. And I talked about this a little bit. Also, he's not going to. He may not be that Heisman. He may not be Caleb Williams or anything crazy like that. But he showed that he's got some talent, right? He can play a little bit of football. Is he going to be the starting quarterback here next year? I would probably.
You never know.
Well, but there's still an opportunity.
I'm gonna.
The hell with it. I'm going to come in and I'm going to.
Vish is going to lay it on the line.
Well, no, I'm going to say I'm going to say we're in for a lot more pain if he is.
And I agree.
And he did well, all things considered. We got to stop putting asterisks by everything in this program. Yeah. And we need someone that can come in and play at a high level consistently from the first game.
He's not ready.
The first game is in Gainesville next year. We need to go win that game.
Yeah,
we need someone that has more seasoning, and I would like to, and I said this year too. I think he can be a really good player. I would like them to actually use him situationally next year. He can run the ball. He can throw it too. He's not just a glorified running back. So you can do a lot of interesting things with him in short yards, which we did not do at all this year. Including running, quarterback draws to get 2 and 3 yards in short yardage and turn those into first downs, like, I don't know, at the end of the NC State game. There's opportunities for that. So I'd like to see his next step, if he's still here, be that, playing situationally with an opportunity to potentially be the starter in 25. Right. I think if he's the guy coming out of camp next year, either he's transformed or we're in trouble again. Because if we want to take that next step, and I agree with what Tom is saying, it's not just the quarterback, but the quarterback is one of the things.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, even with Ja'Cory did the best he could today, given like Lou said, we didn't have the full roster, certainly the offensive line especially.
And that's key.
And then, with Jacoby George making as many dumb plays as catches, there's going to be he overcame some stuff today, but looking at saying like, okay, he's going to be able to like go into Gainesville and win to start next year. I am not optimistic at all. And you start that season off on the wrong foot. We saw how quickly this came apart this year, right? I mean, we need to upgrade that position to someone that we can. I mean, the biggest problem with Tyler Van Dyke was not that he was a bad quarterback, that he was an unreliable quarterback. And you did not know what you were going to get.
Right.
And that's why every time he was a tease, right, you'd watch him and you're like, oh, man, look at these throws he's making. And then the next week is like he doesn't know how to play football anymore.
Right.
And
we could fall into that same trap.
Right. And I think for Ja'Cory, it's a little different. I think he's going to go through those phases and he can get to the point where he is reliable, where TVD had plenty of options for that, and it just wasn't going to happen here. But to go into next year with him in Gainesville, like that would scare the crap out of me, to be honest. If we're like, okay, he's the guy starting in Gainesville in the first game next year.
I think that if you're Ja'Cory, if you're his camp, you kind of look at this as an opportunity to say, we still see we've got some development. We still got some growing up to do to be that quarterback that we want to be here. And I think in 2025, there's a great opportunity for him to be that guy. You bring in some new quarterbacks. You bring in Judd. You bring in, you still got Emory here developing as well. So now you're starting to get some more experience, some more, some more talent in that quarterback room, along with Ja'Cory, and then you bring in guys like Nickel and whoever it is in the transfer portal as well. Then you start, as Vish has always kind of alluded to, right? It's building that quarterback room like you've built, the running back room, or so on and so forth. So I think that Blue, you talk about this a lot, right? And there's 6,000 players in the portal,
Yeah.
and 5,000 of them, 5,500 of them, end up either going to a small school and disappearing off the map, or don't even play football for the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, and they're done, done. And you would hate to see something like that happen to. I mean, I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to go to another Power 5 school and start. I think that his opportunity to play right away is to go to a lower level school, either a group of 5 or something along those lines, like a UMass or something, a school like that where he can get his playing time and continue to develop.
Right.
Kind of in the mold of what Antoine Jackson did. We spoke about it last night about him going to East Carolina, getting that playing time, playing really well. And now he's got an opportunity to potentially come back to Miami and be a guy that could get significant playing time and be okay doing it, and not be a drop off from some of the other guys.
And he was immature because he jumped the grade also. So yeah. So there was a lot of factors, and you know what? That being said, I don't know if you've watched the FCS playoffs, but you look at North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Furman, and Montana, and they would beat everybody in the MAC, everybody, and they would beat them soundly. So going to schools like that would not be the worst idea. Go to a Furman, if he's going to leave. I would like to see him stay because, obviously he's not going to be the starting quarterback, but he's a guy that, if you need him, you're not going to go, oh my God, we got to go to Jacurri. You go, hey, listen, and I agree with Vish. Get a couple packages in there per game. Keep him active, keep him in the game. And I think they could do it because of his ability to run. And he can also throw. I mean, like I said, he made couple of really nice passes, but he had no time, and you could see that. And it just, I was so embarrassed because of the fact that we didn't have the best linemen in there that we could. Now, I'm saying if Cohen and Lee were in there, this is a different ballgame because that's where the games are won up front. And you know that, DJ, that everything is predicated to what you do up front in the trenches. And today we just were not very good, up front. I thought Ryan played okay, but for somebody like him, he needs 2 guys around him to help, and he didn't have that. So, I'm not going to bash anymore. I mean, I think I want to look at the positives, and there were a lot of positives. And, I think when we get the speed in there with Chris Johnson and Brashard Smith and Washington, and then defensively, I think what they're going to do is they're going to get a couple more DBs out of the portal. And,
sure.
Yeah, and I think they may get a linebacker or 2. I don't know. I saw Wesley get hurt. I don't know what the extent to his injury was. But I know he took a pretty good hit. But other than that, I got the negatives out of my system. I'm going to go positives now. And
we have to talk about one more negative.
Oh, which one? Oh no,
which is the play that actually turned the game around, because the Canes were in control and kind of giving it to Rutgers in the third quarter. It started with my boy Cam McCormick whiffing on a block again on the screen. I'm telling you, he's over as a blocker. But we were trying to punt there, and
no, that was awful.
That turned the game around. The Canes had taken Rutgers' punch and flipped the game around. We're dominating the game at that point, and that turned the game all the way around.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there. Jazz and I looked at that quite a bit. We watched the game together, and in addition to Liechtenstein blocking no one, we didn't have enough guys in to block. So there was something.
I noticed that too. Yeah,
there's something screwed up formationally. And actually, I kind of noticed a little bit as the play was happening live that they had moved their gunner in. And normally, if they do that as the punting team, you do one of 2 things: you either fake the punt and just throw it out there because it's an uncovered receiver, or generally, when you're inside your 20, you don't really want to take that risk. You motion your gunner in to be the end line guy and block. We didn't do either of those, and they had free runners coming in. I think even if Liechtenstein makes that block, someone else is blocking that kick because there's just too many guys there. And
they sent 4 guys, and then 3 of them got through.
Yep.
Right, and so I don't know what happened there. I do think our special teams has been very hit or miss this year, and the hit has mainly been Borregales is just really good. Like if you have like an average kicker instead of like one of the best in the country, we're probably a lot more down on the special teams than we have been. And I think it needs to be addressed. We don't really have a special teams coach. And I think
Who is the special teams coach?
It's Marwolf or whatever.
It's not an on-field coach,
On-field coach,
and that just shows me that we're not prioritizing it the way we need to, and it bit us. It bit us here. Like, I mean, that's pretty basic stuff when they motion the gunner in. You either throw the fake, it's automatic, or you motion your guy into cover, and we didn't do either. And then you just don't have enough guys.
Yep.
So, I mean, now that did flip the game. As much as we're complaining about, all the stuff we did wrong, we did respond after getting hit in the mouth pretty badly. Grab a foothold in the game, take the lead, and force the punt to get the ball back to try and, really put some distance there, and then went 3 and out and got a punt blocked, and next thing losing again.
So I'll address this really quick, Jeff. Yeah, he did get hurt, but apparently his X-rays were negative. He's just got some sort of an ankle injury. So
this is on for those on the audio. When I put this on later, this is on Mark Fletcher.
Yeah, Fletcher got hurt, and Wes also he's got some sort of upper extreme.
That was early.
Yeah, that one was early.
Yeah.
And the biggest one, I think, to me, and I'll end with this, and then we'll kind of address what John wrote here about Cam Ward. Obviously, it's an important topic. So, but for me, it kind of shows, that Miami's going to have to really get some really good players on at the safety position, because when you've got Cam Kitchens and James Williams, who are now obviously headed to the NFL. And your next in line happens to be your nickel/star corner, and another cornerback who started on one side basically the whole entire year. Jaden Davis and Corey Couch were the guys that were getting most of the playing time at safety. You got yourself a big safety issue, right? I know we're all excited about Zaquan Patterson coming in. He's a freshman, so I think we need to temper expectations, even though he can come in and be really good right off the bat. But I didn't see much of Jaden Harris today. I don't know if he's injured or if he just didn't play. I don't know what happened there. Markeith Williams, you saw a little bit, but he still needs some development. Didn't see much of Caleb Spencer, which, again, he's a freshman, so only so much you can expect from him. So I'm really looking forward to, guys like Xavier Riley, who's coming in, the transfer from Vanderbilt, and potentially, some of the other guys that Miami's still looking at. So I think the safety position is going to be important. Moving forward, and I think that Mario's going to have to address them right away. What I want,
the other thing I'll add before we go to Cam Moore just on that is we definitely there's holes on this team, and that I mean we talked about the offensive line depth issues. There's obviously there's a safety depth issue if the solution is to move your starting quarterbacks to safety, and try to figure it out. But the other thing is just as a program. Not just the talent on the field, not just the discipline, the coaching, all of it needs to take a step up. We cannot win with like a hand tied behind our back. And frankly, in the 80s and 90s and early 90s, then late 90s as well, we kind of did. We were able to like mismanage the clock and screw this up and screw that, and it didn't matter. We'd make a bunch of penalties. Like we all love that Cotton Bowl highlight. We make 300 yards of penalties and still win by 43 points. Like that's not going to happen anymore. So we got to clean it all up. Like you can't have drop passes. You can't have stupid penalties. You can't have like special teams not taken seriously. You can't mismanage the clock. Like all of this stuff also needs to get better. And because I think I'm kind of addressing one of John's other questions. It's going to get better just from the talent upgrades. But I think the question is like, where's the ceiling on this thing? And if we're going to crash through that ceiling to where we're competing for national championships, which is what everyone wants, the coaching has to get better too. Like Jazz says, the schemes they weren't great. And there was some problematic play calling at times. I mean, the decision, as Blue called earlier, on 4th and 2 to run behind the worst offensive lineman on the roster. I mean, that's not sound coaching. And we've just got to get now, again, talent can help some of that because we have like a Javion going in there instead. He probably knocks the dude back and you get the first down. And everyone's like, wow, we showed the physicality, right? We're all like, look how tough we are. But, that's also, what if Javion Conan got injured at one point this year? Right? I mean, it's not just we lost them because they went pro. We lost our center and our left guard, but we could have lost them for any number of reasons. And that's where we cannot. The solution is not to work around deficiencies; is to fix them. And that includes the coaching, includes the game management we talked about, includes some of the schematics, it includes adjustments. After the North Carolina game, we were all really happy that Guidry, he kind of changed his scheme. I remember he went to that 3-3 defense, fooled the crap out of Clemson, basically won that game for the team because the offense didn't do anything for most of that game. That can't take a whole game of North Carolina running for 300 yards before you figure that out, right? I mean, these are if we want to take that, how do we get from 6-7 wins to, 10, 11, 12 wins? It's got to also happen at the coaching level. So to answer John's other question before we talk about the quarterbacks, yeah, I do think it's in there, but it is also going to take some self-reflection on the coaching staff. And what can I do better? Every single person in that locker room needs to look in the mirror and say, what can I do better to make this program better? Because everyone needs to improve. And if they all improve incrementally, the wins will shoot way the hell up. And we're not that far, but we're not one player away. It's like a lot of micro adjustments across the board. And that's why we're frustrating right now, because you know what didn't happen this year, which happened at pretty much every game last year? We never got blown out. We're in every one of these games.
Yep.
And that is part of the progress. And the next step is really, okay, you make those minor fixes across the board, though, with the coaches, with the players, with the talent. All of that incrementally moves up collectively. That's a big jump. We're almost there, but it could easily go the other direction. So it's a big offseason.
Yep.
And good lead into to this question I know, Jazz, you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest question. What we're going to do at the quarterback position. The big name is still Cam Ward. So the question is, if anyone thinks Cam Ward watches this game and says, no thanks. Here's what I think. I think that everybody is putting too much hype into the Cam Ward thing. Like if he is the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I think we need to kind of take a step back and realize that there's holes and there's deficiencies in Cam Ward's game as well. Okay? And if he was the perfect quarterback, if he was an absolute, Heisman candidate right off the bat, he wouldn't think twice and he'd just go to the NFL, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. And even if he does do that now, he may still get drafted in the second or third round. I get that. He's a talented player. He's got a lot of great assets, a lot of great skills, but he still needs to put it all together on a consistent basis. I mean, if you watch his tape, if you watch a lot of his game film, he still makes a lot of mistakes, okay? He's still, he's got all the attributes to be an elite quarterback. Absolutely. But, we're sitting here saying that he's going to come in and lead us to the promised land. We're going to go 13-0. I think people need to realize that he's not going to come in and say, no, thanks. Like if he is, that much better than everybody else on the team. It's just not that. I mean, this is my opinion again. Right? A lot of people think that Cam Ward's going to come in, win the Heisman here in Miami, and throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. And I get that. And there's a possibility that he can do something like that. But I think we need to understand something that, as Vish continued to allude, and Blue, you've said it a million times, DJ, this is about consistency and development all throughout the whole entire team, not just one position. Will good quarterback help? Absolutely. Consistent quarterback play is better than sporadic, amazing quarterback play, right? We've noticed that. We've seen it. You have some, and I'm not sitting here advocating for a game manager. I think that that's kind of overstated it, if you ask me as well, right? But I think you need to realize that you need a guy that's going to be consistent. He's going to play well consistently. He'll be able to manage, yes, the game, but he's also going to make the tough throws. He's going to make the really good throws that make you go, wow, that put us over the top. You need a little bit of both. You don't need just a game manager, and you just don't need a gunslinger. You need a little bit of both. And you notice that with some of the better quarterbacks that have won national titles that are playing for really good football teams is that they're just not game managers, right? Even Stetson Bennett made some incredible throws a few years back in the national championship game, right? And you've got some other guys, that are doing the same thing. So I think that we need to kind of take a step back and realize that he's not the only guy that's out there that's a really good quarterback in the transfer portal right now. And the way things are going with regards to, them kind of pulling back the whole having to sit out if he transfer a second time, rule for the time being, at least for this year. You might see some other guys that are going to come in that are going to jump into the portal that are not in the portal just yet, right? You still might see that there's some players out there that are going to play some bowl games. And I know I mentioned one last night. I kept saying Caden Salter, who I think is an excellent football player. So I think that, I know we all had this idea that Mario wasn't going to wait around for anybody. He's clearly waiting around for Cam Ward a little bit, right? I mean, that just feels like that's what it is. But he may also be waiting around for somebody else that he likes that may fit this program a little bit better as well. Okay, Will Howard. I mean, there's a lot of names out there. So, for me to sit here and say, I think that, it's Cam Ward or bust, I don't agree with that. DJ, I kind of want to throw it to you on this whole Cam Ward thing as well and kind of go around the horn on it, because I think that, I think we're all kind of just waiting to see what Cam Ward does. And I just don't know if he's the only guy that I'm going to sit there and be happy about. Will I be happy if Miami gets him? Absolutely, right? I think he's talented. But there's also some other guys that I'd be just as happy with if Miami lands one of those other quarterbacks.
Like I said last night, I am the self-proclaimed conductor of the Cam Ward train, but to, proclaim that he is the only answer is kind of a bit foolish. And I think, putting all your eggs in one basket, and I'm not saying any of you, but more so the fans and even sometimes myself, is a little bit foolish. I mean, I don't think with the talent that we're bringing in next year, combined with the talent we already have now, we don't need this out-of-the-world quarterback. We need a good quarterback, and we don't, like you said, necessarily need a game manager either. We just need a smart quarterback, somebody who doesn't turn the football over, somebody who can make the big plays when needed. And, while Cam Ward may bring, the big arm and the running ability a little bit, and, while he is, an electric football player in terms of just what he brings to the table, we're at a point now where we are recruiting guys that can make the other guys better. Like, I look, for example, living in New England at Mac Jones. Alabama got the guys to surround Mac Jones with, and they made him look a lot better than, quite honestly, he really was. And I'm not saying that we can recruit like Alabama yet, but I'm saying as long as you put the pieces around a quarterback, you can help the quarterback function in your system. And you can put a lot of guys in your system that don't necessarily have to be, a Cam Ward type or anything like that.
Yeah, I think, and I see John's point about Michael Penix. So, I mean, this is the second.
And that's, I get that. It makes sense. Michael Penix was a way better quarterback.
Well, there's two things. There's that, but it took 2 years at Washington at this point. It wasn't his first year there. And yes, we'd all at this point, after what we just watched, if you say we could do what Washington did last year, which is go 11-2 and win a bowl game, we'll sign up for that in 24, right? I mean,
absolutely.
So yes, that would be great. But I think part of this is also the narrative that, and this is why I was pushing Mac on it so hard. Look, our quarterback this year was inconsistent. He was downright awful at times. He was never the only problem, and I think that's the narrative that developed. If we just had a quarterback, and that's just not the case. And I was hoping the Louisville game would kind of, unsee some of that. I'll address this in a second. I thought that would kind of, at least open people's eyes that, hey, there's other problems in this program. A quarterback is not a magic bullet. But we're right back there. And to Jazz's point, not only do we have the magic bullet, it has to be this guy that, let's be real, none of us were watching Washington State games at like 2 a.m, like as if we've all broken down his film all year and we know his tendencies and like, oh, wow, this some hidden gem. One of the reasons he's transferring is because Washington State is not going to be a major conference program next year. And so there's all sorts of stuff going on there. If I'd asked in midseason who's Washington State's quarterback, I don't know that a majority. I know some of our fans do. They sit there and watch their Pac-12 after dark. I don't know that a majority would have been able to name him.
Honestly, I love you.
Now all of a sudden, that's what I'm saying. I know some of you will. So if you sat there and watched Washington State play in October, more power to you. I know some of you do, so I'm not saying none of you do, but the idea that we've gone from that we've somehow anointed to Jasmine. We've anointed this kid, and he's the only thing that'll fix this program. First of all, that's not true. Second, like that's unfair to him. What if he does come here? You're putting all that on him?
Yeah.
Like, come on, that's not fair. We saw the team out there today, right? And we saw all of the problems that are there. And if you think and our quarterback played reasonably well today.
Yeah.
But if you think that like a quarterback is a silver bullet, it's just not. And
he would have had the same problems having no blocking either today.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
so-
And that was one of the things I was kind of harping on. Yes, TVD was bad. We actually won. Like one of his worst game was North Carolina State. His second worst game was Virginia, and we won that game. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just it was never just to the quarterback. And if we don't get out of this quarterback savior complex, to DJ's point, although again, I think Mac Jones failing in the NFL after being a top 5 pick is not the same thing as struggling at the college level. I think you have some bitter Patriots fan stuff slipping through there a little bit.
Well, no, but I'm saying that you can put weapons around a quarterback to make him better, and that's what the Patriots didn't do in New England, quite frankly. They didn't give him a lot of weapons to try to help him. Whereas at the college level, he had Jaylen Waddle and Henry Ruggs and all these guys. So if you build a solid core group of wide receivers like Miami is going to, that, can kind of, increase your quarterback pool to where you don't need to get that, big star. That's all I was trying to say.
No, but that's how you win in college. You don't win by just getting the stud quarterback and having a one-man show. You'll win by building across the board. And we've gotten into this thing where we have savior complex. We want someone to ride in on a horse and just save the program.
It's not gonna happen.
That doesn't always happen. How was the Wasabi Bowl there? They played in your backyard and everything.
What an upset. No,
I don't. Hey, listen, you've been knocking Boston College all year. I want Castellanos in my
That's
backyard.
fair enough. That's fair enough. And, I think he is a really good quarterback. Just really quickly, I think he's a really good quarterback. And BC was so high and low. But towards the end of the season, they started to figure it out. And they played hard today. Maybe it was playing at Fenway. Maybe. But
I love the fact that you went from Fenway to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
What a great football day that is. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah. 2 great ballparks.
Yeah, and I think it does. And Blue, we've talked about this. There is a difference going against a Power 5 team. And SMU looked great all year, but they hit a Power 5 team, and they looked like they had not played that level of competition because they hadn't been. And this is why we get frustrated when, we don't bring our best game against teams like Georgia Tech. Because, look, they still have dudes. Like, when you're in the Power 5, like, they get dudes. They have NIL budgets. They're not as high as that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, Rutgers is a Big Ten team. They have dudes. And that's why, again, I think another thing as we talk about things that need to get better for next year, you have got – every game is important. You cannot have these games where you just show up uninterested. And we did that today. We certainly did that against Georgia Tech. You've got to – anyone can beat you in a big conference. I mean, Virginia won, 3 games, and one of them was against North Carolina. I think they had another big upset against a bowl team. Like, it's just –
look how Virginia Tech ended up this year.
Yeah, Virginia Tech ended up –
they had a monster game yesterday.
Kansas State is putting it on NC State right now, too. So.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but this is and so, yeah, it's going to be a step up in competition for teams like SMU that have to all of a sudden – go against teams that have been recruited.
Not play North Texas State every week or all those.
Yeah, no, it's a big difference, and that again, the gap is not that big there, and that's why, this stuff where we come out flat and uninterested, like we're just going to show up and roll people.
If we had to ask the chat, right, whoever's on the chat, who their quarterback would be next year, who's it going to be? I kind of want to.
Yeah, why don't you throw that in the chat?
See how many people answer, but. I definitely want to know who they want as quarterback next year. Look,
I like SMU's uniforms with Dallas on it. I think next year Miami should come back with Coral Gables on.
That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Hey, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Buckets reference. They should do the Coral Gables trolley color jerseys like the best.
There you go.
The yellow.
Oh, look, we can sit here and speculate.
Well, actually, but if you guys want to put in the chat, who do you have starting the game in Gainesville next year? Throw that in the chat.
Jeff, Toxic, Brian, Boss, I don't know whoever else is.
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few people in the watching the stream, so I'm sure some of you in the chat now kind of throw in your quarterback. Who do you got? We're right into Gainesville. Who's under center?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Look, I mean, there's still a lot of time between now. We've got about 8 months, right? We got 8 months, 8.5 months before we play another game. Obviously, the spring game and all that stuff doesn't.
And every week for the next 8 months, we'll be talking about it. So
we absolutely will. We absolutely will. So
you can bet that
it's gonna be an interesting 8 months because obviously the transfer portal is still hot. You've got another signing day coming up with some guys that are going to reclassify. It's actually met a kid today who's reclassifying blue. I got to talk to you about that one, see what you think. But yes, NC State did just score. Brendan Armstrong took it to the house.
Concepcion looked like he scored. No,
it was
Armstrong.
It was Armstrong.
Oh, I see.
We got a lot to talk about, but I think we have a lot to look forward to as well. Miami has put together a very good class.
Great class.
They're working on building the depth, and I think that this is not the end of the world. This loss, right? It's tough to lose to the team. You did get outplayed a little bit. You got outcoached a little bit, but you also saw some signs of some development, some growth from some guys, right? Some of the players. So I think that this is just an opportunity for, as Vish mentioned, for not only the players to get better and to develop, but for the coaching staff. I think the coaching staff needs to kind of get back in to their own, rooms and figure out how they can get better as a staff. And I think the most important thing is to be able to have a guy that's going to be right alongside Mario to help him out with certain deficiencies. And the biggest one is clock management and time management as a whole. I think that's going to be very important because those opportunities that I think we left on the field. I mean, you can't leave that game with 2 timeouts still. That's just the bottom line.
I mean it's egregiously bad, and I think it's even worse when the commentator in the middle of the drive is like, "Well, I know Miami fans are upset, but this is just how Mario does things." What are we talking about? No, you call timeout correctly. That's what you need to do. Like, what does this mean? Yeah. But actually, when they asked, when that last set of downs that Rutgers had the ball and there was 4 minutes left, the commentator said, "Is Miami going to start using timeouts?" And I said, "Yes, they should." And then Jazz is like, "You really think we're going to?" And Jazz was right. We did not. We sat on them, and they ended up going to waste.
Yep.
Can't cash them in.
No, you can't. So, we'll still have a lot of content for you guys coming up in the new year.
Weekly show, man. We're still we don't go away
except for next week.
Next week is New Year's, right?
New Year's again.
Yeah.
So we'll be out, but we've got some baseball coming up for you soon. We still have buckets.
Buckets is next Tuesday before the Canes opener against Clemson.
Myself and Vish will be at the Clemson game. The Clemson men's basketball game. I think Mel might be there too. I don't know.
She's working.
So, but we'll be there too.
What day? What is it at? Midweek?
Wednesday.
Wednesday night. So
also,
radio show.
On Sunday at 4, the women host Louisville. That's 2 top 20 teams.
Oh,
yeah, be a good game.
So that's a really good one. Tickets are $5. So
if you can't show up to that,
that's pretty damn cheap.
No,
that's pretty good.
It's 5 or 10.
Yeah, that's good.
It's 5 or 10 depending on the opponent, but the women's bet, and it's general admission. You can go sit in mid-court if you want. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, definitely. If you're not doing anything on, I know it is New Year's Eve, so I know a lot of people have plans swirling around, but that's a huge game for the women too. It's a conference opener. A lot of stuff. So we'll be doing that on Buckets. Follow us on Buckets_Canes as well.
Can't wait to do some baseball coverage. I know that we'll have a big game. We'll have a big show. Potentially, we actually had some talks with someone today that we may be doing a live show soon at a specific location.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That we'll let you know very shortly. It kind of just fell into my lap, really. I mean, I didn't even look for it. It's funny. But yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll let you guys know, the listeners and the watchers, soon. But it'll be a really cool show. Might be able to get you guys to come out and support. So we'll definitely talk about that. And we may have a former player coming out to join us in that show. So
Pat Burrell's coming?
Pat Burrow. It's Pat Burrow and Danny Graves. No,
Oh,
That's outscore. What are we talking about?
Alex
See the
Cora,
Red Sox
it
manager
should
in
be
there.
Alex Cora, right? But I think he's busy coaching.
If he has another season like he did these past 2 years, he won't be busy. You can get him on the show all you want.
Making a head coach for the Kings next year. Okay, which I'll take.
Yeah, we're blaming Alex Cora because they decided not to spend money. Really?
That's fair. Yeah.
nice Nebraska shirt you got, Danny, for Christmas. Was that a brand new one? Or?
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
I got that.
On the air, right?
Yep.
Make sure you
Made
guys
that mistake one time.
And they'll never let me forget it.
Live it down, baby. Never. Make sure you guys keep it locked on here on the Five Versus Sports YouTube channel, but also on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes. Check us out on the podcast. We have a 6 Ring Canes podcast. Anywhere you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Make sure you tune in as we've got all this coverage and more, including buckets. You'll have baseball coverage.
We're going to name the baseball coverage.
Yeah,
we've had some suggestions. We're trying to see if we can get someone inside the house to do it, though.
So, yeah, we'll definitely be able to hear all of that on the podcast. Keep it locked there. Subscribe there. Give us a like here on YouTube as well. And make sure you follow us every week for continuous coverage of Kings football and so much more. We want to thank everybody for listening in this year. It was an excellent year. We do appreciate all of you. We want to wish you a very, very, very happy new year, of course. Please stay safe out there. And no matter what we do, we'll always rep the U. Okay? It's always all about the U, no matter what. And we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
I thought you were going to be like that Gators guy crying at the Florida State game, man. I thought you were about to break down.
I know, right? We will always listen. We'll keep fighting for that 6th ring, no matter what. That's why we do this. So, no, how about them? Nothing. All right, it's all about the Dolphins, by the way. But it's a King show. This is a King show.
Look, man. I mean, we're going to the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Congratulations. Whatever.
Well, I mean, you guys celebrated making the playoffs like you won the Super Bowl last
Well,
week.
it kind of is, right? It's been like 8
Yeah.
That's what I don't know. Cowboys will be fine. They'll do something mind-numbingly dumb, like put Ezekiel Elliott at center to end the season at the end of the season. So I'm prepared for it.
That's the Cowboys for you.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Zeke doesn't leave New England. I'll say that right now. He's been one of the bright spots this year.
Dallas is really good schedule last 3-4 weeks. Tomorrow, Detroit, too. That'd be another one.
Yeah, Detroit and then the Commanders.
Yeah, well, at least 3 good games.
DJ, Blue, Vish, this was awesome year. Year number 3. We'll keep going strong, man. We'll be obviously we're not stopping, so you'll see us again. If not next week, the following week, but make sure you tune in for buckets every week as well. So we'll see you guys soon. Make sure you keep it locked and go Canes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The 6 Ring Cane Show. Yeah. The 6 Ring Cane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Cane Show. You know.